Tonight, the Middle East is on fire, literally. The night sky is lit up by flames and explosions as a new and dangerous chapter unfolds in a region already marked by decades of tension and conflict. The world is witnessing a dramatic escalation that could reshape the balance of power far beyond the region's borders. Israeli jets have struck deep inside Iran, targeting nuclear sites and critical energy infrastructure. The attacks have ignited massive blazes, sending thick plumes of smoke into the night and sparking panic on the ground. These strikes have sent shockwaves through global markets as investors and governments scramble to assess the fallout. Iran hit back fast, launching a barrage of missiles at Israeli military targets. The response was swift and fierce, with rockets streaking across the sky and air raid sirens blaring in cities across Israel. The world watched as the conflict escalated in real time. Air defenses intercepted many of the incoming missiles, lighting up the night with spectacular explosions. But even as many were stopped, the psychological impact on civilians caught between fear and uncertainty remains undeniable. This is no longer a shadow war fought in secret. It's open conflict between two regional powerhouses, with armies mobilizing and cities bracing for what could come next. The stakes have never been higher. The world is watching in alarm as diplomatic channels collapse and military escalation takes center stage. Leaders are holding emergency meetings, searching for ways to prevent a wider war, but so far words have failed to halt the violence. Oil prices spiked instantly, with Brent crude jumping over $10 a barrel before settling. The energy markets are in turmoil, and the ripple effects are being felt from Wall Street to gas stations around the globe. The global economy is rattled. What happens here threatens the oil that powers our lives. From the cars we drive to the planes that fly, the world's dependence on Middle Eastern oil is suddenly and dangerously exposed. Iranian leaders, furious and reeling from the attacks, are now openly threatening to close the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway through which a fifth of the world's oil supply flows. Such a move could cripple the world's energy supply and send prices soaring even higher. This isn't a bluff. Iran has prepared for this scenario for years, building up its military presence and rehearsing for a potential blockade. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the world is on edge. The world holds its breath, waiting for the next move in a crisis that could change the course of history. Look at a map. Between the Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman lies the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most critical energy choke point. This narrow stretch of water, often overlooked on a globe, is the lifeline for the global economy. It's a place where geography and geopolitics collide, and the fate of nations can hinge on what happens here. Just 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, the Strait of Hormuz is like a bottleneck for the world's energy supply, an artery through which 1/5 of global oil flows every single day. Imagine a single highway carrying 20% of the world's cars, and you'll start to grasp the scale and vulnerability of this passage. Every day, a parade of supertankers from Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, Iraq, and Iran squeeze through these waters loaded with oil and liquefied natural gas destined for markets in Asia, Europe, and beyond. The world's energy security depends on this daily ritual, and any disruption could send shockwaves across the globe. Disruption here isn't a hiccup, it's a global catastrophe. A single incident, a blockade, or an attack could halt the flow of oil, sending prices skyrocketing and triggering panic from Wall Street to small-town gas stations. Iran controls the entire northern shore and has spent decades preparing to shut it down if threatened. Its military presence is formidable, with fast attack boats, missiles, and mines ready to be deployed at a moment's notice. The U.S. and its allies maintain a constant naval presence, escorting tankers and deterring aggression. But the current crisis has raised the stakes, making every movement in these waters fraught with tension and risk. The threat is real and immediate. Iran's leverage is immense. Even the hint of conflict can send markets into turmoil, and the world watches every maneuver with bated breath. The oil market was already tight, OPEC's spare capacity is at a historic low, and global demand is surging as economies recover and grow. There's little room for error, there's no buffer, no backup plan. Strategic reserves are limited, and alternative routes are either too costly or simply don't exist at the scale needed. Losing 20% of the world's oil overnight would shatter the system. Refineries would grind to a halt, Supply chains would break and economies would face immediate crisis. The consequences would ripple across every continent, affecting everything from the price of food to the stability of governments. The Strait of Hormuz is more than a waterway. It's the world's energy lifeline, and its vulnerability is everyone's problem. Iran doesn't need a wall to close Hormuz. It has a playbook of chaos. The Strait of Hormuz is just 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, but it's the world's most critical oil choke point. Every day, nearly a fifth of global oil passes through these waters, making any disruption here a global crisis in the making. Iran knows this, and it's spent decades preparing for the possibility of a showdown. Swarms of fast attack boats armed with missiles can harass and threaten tankers, making passage perilous. These small, agile vessels are hard to track and even harder to stop, weaving between massive ships and launching hit-and-run attacks. Their mere presence can force commercial ships to slow down or change course, creating confusion and fear. Land-based anti-ship missiles create a deadly no-go zone for ships. Iran's coastline is bristling with missile batteries, radar, and surveillance systems, all ready to target any vessel that enters the strait. The threat isn't just theoretical. These weapons have been tested and proven in past confrontations. Naval mines, quickly and covertly deployed, can halt all traffic. Just the rumor of mines is enough to stop shipping. Mines are cheap, hard to detect, and can be laid by boats, submarines, or even dropped from the air. Clearing them is slow, dangerous work, and even a handful can paralyze a shipping lane for weeks. But Iran's most powerful tool might be a simple declaration, a military exclusion zone. By announcing that the strait is off-limits, Iran can create legal and insurance nightmares for shipping companies, even without firing a shot. That would void insurance for tankers. No insurance, no shipping. Without coverage, no captain or company would risk sending their vessel through such a dangerous area, effectively shutting down the flow of oil. Oil flow stops, not with a bang, but with a policy. Ports would empty, storage tanks would fill, and the world would feel the shock waves in rising prices and energy shortages. Clearing mines and escorting ships would stretch U.S. and allied navies to the limit. The sheer scale of the operation, combined with the constant threat of attack, would make every transit a high-stakes gamble. Iran's goal isn't to win a naval war, but to make the strait too risky and expensive to use. The uncertainty alone could send oil prices skyrocketing, impacting economies far beyond the Gulf. It's asymmetric warfare, turning a narrow waterway into the world's most dangerous trap, where a single spark could ignite a global crisis. If Hormuz closes, oil prices won't just rise, they'll explode. Analysts warn of $200, $300 per barrel, far beyond the 2008 crisis. That spike hits your gas station almost instantly. U.S. fuel systems have little reserve. Gas stations keep just a few days' supply. Panic buying will empty them in hours. Gas could hit $8, $10 a gallon, diesel even higher. Filling a family car could cost $150. Truckers could pay over $1,500 per fill-up. The shock is immediate. Prices double or triple in days, not months. News of a closure will trigger a rush to the pumps, draining supplies fast. Panic buying creates a vicious cycle. Stations run dry before new deliveries arrive. The system isn't built for this kind of shock. The result: empty pumps, skyrocketing prices, and chaos at the local level. The first sign for most Americans? Endless lines at gas stations, tempers flaring, and supplies vanishing in hours. The just-in-time delivery system collapses. Stations that usually last 3 days run dry in 3 hours. No gas signs appear everywhere, spreading panic. Soon it's not about price, it's about availability. Even $10 a gallon won't matter if there's nothing to buy. Delivery trucks can't afford diesel. Many will simply stop running. The entire system grinds to a halt. Empty stations park trucks and refineries with nowhere to send fuel. Scarcity spirals. People are stranded, unable to commute or take kids to school. The freedom of mobility vanishes overnight. Our world shrinks and daily routines are upended. The crisis moves from inconvenience to paralysis. The oil crisis doesn't stop at the pump, it infects the entire economy. Food supply chains break first, trucks can't afford to move, and grocery shelves empty within days. Fresh produce, dairy, meat, and bread disappear and prices soar. Air travel halts as jet fuel costs skyrocket. Flights are grounded, stranding millions. Delivery services like Amazon and FedEx suspend operations. No more packages, no more essentials. Even police, fire, and hospitals ration fuel, limiting emergency response. Construction, tourism, and factories shut down as parts and people can't move. The ripple effects are endless. Energy crisis becomes food, transport, and economic crisis. Our interconnected world unravels, exposing its fragility. A single choke point can bring modern life to a standstill. The true cost is far beyond the price at the pump. Some remember the 1970s oil crisis, long lines, rationing, anxiety. But today's America is far more vulnerable. Our just-in-time global supply chains depend on cheap, reliable fuel. In the 1970s, the economy was more localized and resilient. Now it's brittle and hyper-efficient. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve is depleted, just 350 million barrels, a temporary fix for a massive, sustained shock. Our lives are more energy-dependent, longer commutes, instant delivery, global travel. The 1970s crisis hit a less connected, less demanding society. Today, a shock would be far more disruptive. Our systems have no slack. Efficiency has made us vulnerable. This isn't history repeating, it's a new, greater threat. The scale of this crisis is daunting, but preparation matters. Keep your gas tank at least half full. Don't get caught empty. Stock up on non-perishable food and water for at least 1 to 2 weeks. Secure extra prescription medications if possible. Supply chains for medicine are just as fragile. Build a basic emergency kit, flashlights, batteries, first aid, and a radio. Keep some cash on hand. Electronic payments may fail. Talk with family and neighbors. Create a simple communication plan. Know who might need extra help in your community. These aren't extreme measures. They're sensible precautions. Preparedness buys time and peace of mind when chaos hits. The crisis in the Middle East isn't distant. It's a fuse connected to our daily lives. The Strait of Hormuz is the world's energy lifeline, and it's under threat. This isn't about fear. It's about awareness and action. We've built a society on cheap, abundant energy, assuming it will always be there. A crisis here shatters that assumption and exposes our vulnerability. We must urge leaders to de-escalate and rethink our energy strategy. But we can't just wait. Individual and community preparedness is essential. The decisions made now will shape our future. Understanding the threat is the first step. Being ready is the only way to weather the storm. The warning signs are clear. The time to act is now.